Hello, and welcome to Mind Your Lens, the podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm launching into a new era right now. Shout out to Demoon Studios in Phoenix. I'm recording this on video. It's my first podcast being recorded on video. Now, I've been coaching and teaching for over a decade, and I feel like with podcasting, there's this whole different route to take in your mind because you're talking to a screen. You're not talking to a person. When I coach, when I teach, I'm in front of tens, a lot of people, sometimes hundreds of people. But this is different. So I have to imagine that you're there on the other side listening to me. And I know you are now because you're watching this or you're listening to it. So thank you for being here. I think part of today, I really want to share a little bit of my story of what I'm doing, where I'm at, because I feel like it's this nice full circle moment. And then with the other part of today, I, of course, will talk about NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming. Behold, the methods of your mind, the mechanics of your thought, the way that you are seeing and thinking about the world. This matters. Why does it matter? Because this is how you're translating objective reality into your subjective experience. And sometimes that can be really fruitful and full of benefits and empowerment and happiness because you are making sense of a situation and you are translating that into feelings of growth, empowerment, resistance, or resilience is the word I'm looking for, persistence. But then what happens when you're not feeling that way? How do you get rid of these negative emotions that you feel again and again? And why are you experiencing negative emotions again and again? This is one of my favorite parts of NLP, is to get to know yourself at such a deep level that you understand why you feel the way you do. And when it comes to moving through things like blockages or limiting beliefs or traumas even, the method of the mind is to figure out the structure of your nervous system. Neuro Linguistic Programming. Neuro is your brain, linguistic is your language, and it's the programming. The programming of the language of your mind. And as you articulate that language into a way that only benefits you, into ways that only help you grow through challenges, that's how you can really up-level your human experience. If the sum total of the emotions you experience in life equal the quality of your life, how do you want to live? If it's up to you, which it mostly is, I think it's a co-creation of you and your external experience because stuff's going to happen. Shit's going to go down. But how you respond to it is going to make it or break it. Right? Okay. So, cut to. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona right now. I was just living in Colorado the past 3 years. I moved from California, and when I was in California, loved my life, had a great life, but I had that itch, that inner calling inside of me that said I want to do something different. I want to do something completely different. I want to press shuffle and end up somewhere else. So I did. And I moved on to a farm in Colorado, and that's where I was the last 3 years. So if you've been watching my journey, you saw that I bought a shed, I built it out, and that's what I lived in with the cows next door. I think that profound experience brought so many skills into my life, like both physical skills. I learned how to tile floors, install ceilings and walls. I made my bedroom loft. I installed a window. Right? Graduate of YouTube University over here. There are so many things that you can explore to figure out how to do when you take things one step at a time. So that whole shed building experience taught me this essence of patience and growth in a way that I've never experienced before. And I think in our world of instant gratification, to slow things down to the level that you are the person that's building your house. I was the person that was building my house. I was the person that was keeping myself warm day in and day out, chopping wood. Like, what a different experience than I've ever had before. And I love it. I love the duty that came with that lifestyle. I love the responsibility that came with that lifestyle, the survival that was needed to chop wood every day, organize it, burn it, keep it going throughout the whole day, I will always look back at those 3 years proud of myself. And after 3 years, I was kind of like, what do I do now? Kind of felt like more of the same. And so I wanted to press shuffle again. And now I'm out in Phoenix, Arizona. Mostly I'm escaping the winter because it was just really cold the last 3 years. And I need a break from cold and chopping wood. And I'm grateful to be out here. I'm doing work out here. I work out here in a building. And it's an entirely different system. It's an entirely different lifestyle. Like there's a Lifetime Fitness that I can go down the street and go to hot yoga classes and Pilates classes and go into a sauna, a steam room. There's cold plunges on site as well. And I think what this is also teaching me now too is when you leap into the unknown, when you allow yourself to just trust that inner calling that's within you, and you know that calling that's inside of you, right? You know that calling where you're living this experience of life, but there's something whispering in the back of your mind. And sometimes you're looking for a sign, right? You're looking for a sign outside of you to make that leap. But I'm telling you that the feeling inside of you is the sign that you need to change, that you want to do something new. So you're not looking for a sign. You have it. You're looking for the courage to follow the sign. And that, my friends, is the hard part. And oftentimes, you're not going to get rid of the fear entirely. So it's not courage or fear. It's courage and fear. And what would it be like to leap into the unknown? I was listening to a podcast, and he said there's a couple different types of decisions, right? One of the decisions is you make the decision, you can never go back. You can never press redo. But there's a different type of decision where you can go back. You can change your mind again. And I feel like moving is one of those decisions because you can always move back. You can always get a job in a similar industry that you were in. And if you don't believe that, I think that could bring up some limitations, like limiting beliefs. I don't have that belief. I'm very much a believer of like never-ending, limitless possibilities. And so when I made that leap, I do have this feeling like, I could go back. So there's that permission. Now, granted, I do know I'm in a very privileged space to do that. Like I don't have kids, I don't have a partner, I don't have any pets. So I don't have a lot of attachments that are keeping me in some space or area. But regardless of all that, I think making decisions that help launch you forward into new areas of growth is so important. Like I'm almost 34 years old and I could have stayed in that farm town for decades. It's so peaceful. You just wake up next to the cows. It's amazing. But I don't feel like I want to live in that kind of environment just yet. I feel like I want to stretch and grow and expand myself in new ways and expand my business and build out just a little bit more of that before I go live with the cows again. So the leadership and grit that I've learned from building a shed can now cross-contextualize into other areas of my life. And I've now shown myself that I'm more resilient, I'm more capable, and I'm more skilled than I was before. And so think about those journeys that you have in life that are expanding your skill sets, are expanding the boundaries of your way of thinking. And when you break those boundaries of thinking, when you break the habit of being yourself that was holding you back, you start to see what is underneath. Those patterns, those programmings, what you think you're capable of. That's where the NLP comes in. I just launched my next NLP Academy. So this is the 19th practitioner training that I'm going to teach. And I've done 22 total because I've done a couple master practitioner trainings. This one's going to be 12 weeks long. This one starts in January. And this one is even more special. Because every time I teach one of these, I learn even more. I bring even more students in. And I see people change in miraculous ways right in front of me. Neuro Linguistic Programming is not about fixing people. You're not fucked up. You're not broken. You've just had patterns and projections maybe placed upon you from other people in your life. And those are the things that you've inherited in your programming. What your family said, what your parents said, what your grandparents said, what your teachers said, what the news said, what society said. All of these outer projections of the way things should be have been placed upon you, and maybe you did absorb some of it. But what I really love about the technology of NLP, and it's a mental technology that's been around since the 1970s, and it's all about change work, because change work makes the change work. And it started because they were asking, well, how do people change? How do two people experience a similar situation, a similar challenge, a similar setback? One becomes bitter, the other becomes better. How? It's because of the way that they're responding. And the way that they're responding is a reflection of the programmings that they have within them. The stories, the beliefs, the attitudes, the patterns, the traumas. So what have you been through that has now collected itself inside of you to display the nervous system that you have, to display the patterns of behavior that you have? And where are you finding yourself stagnated or blocking yourself from who you truly want to be? This is what NLP is about. It's not about fixing people. It's about finding out why they can't get what they want and what's in the way. Because when you move through what's in the way, you have a clear vessel of your most empowered, happiest life. I think when I first discovered NLP, like really discovered it, the magic of NLP, it was the end of 2017. I had already taken one NLP seminar, and I was like, what is this NLP stuff? And I didn't really get it because I was still stuck in my own mechanics of my mind and control issues, type A personality. I had a lot going on in my head, and I wasn't as attached to the kinesthetic, my body. You know, get out of your head and into your heart. I didn't really understand what that meant. But then I had a memory during one of the NLP techniques. And I had a memory that I'm not sure if it's a real memory or if it's just a metaphorical representation of what my brain wanted to show me in the moment to heal. Nonetheless, NLP is these magical methods of allowing us to see from outside our way of thinking. Right? Who is the voice inside your head? It's the one who sees that. And there's this weird lens of reality that we can have that when you think your thoughts, you can also step a little further back and you can think about the thoughts that you're thinking about. So you're not just living an unconscious life. You're living a conscious and intentional life. The thing is, though, this means you're not off the hook anymore. Once you take that accountability, once you take that responsibility of the way you see, the way you think, the way you perceive reality, you can't just let yourself off the hook anymore. Oh, my whole family is a bunch of alcoholics. That means I'm destined to be one. Oh, my father has anger issues. That means I'm certainly going to have them. Oh, it's just the way I am. I can't be on time ever. I'm just always late. It's just who I am. Those aren't bad qualities. Like, none of those are good or bad. That's just biased upon the person who has that experience. But if something is not helping you or serving you or bringing you to that elevated space of life that you want to be in, let's unpack it. Let's take the heavy rocks out of your backpack that are holding you back from the top of the mountain, and let's throw them off the cliff. Let's get rid of those rocks weighing you down. But you need to understand what is happening in your neural representation of reality to understand what that weight is that is holding you back. And when you figure that out, you feel a lightness in your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul. That's, I think, the goal of Neuro Linguistic Programming. And when you start to do that, if each individual starts to elevate themselves in these ways, then the whole conscious collective levels up as well. And this would be the goal. So the ripple of your self-development not only is experienced through you, but it's also experienced through every individual that interacts with you. And if you can make a change for the better, and if you can make a change for your own happiness, that will start to spread. And each person does that, and then it grows at exponential rates. So this is the goal. And I don't want people to think that they're broken. I don't want people to think that they're messed up, too messed up. Because I've been there a little bit too. When I was younger, it was like, oh, I can never be that person that I want to be because I have all of these issues, and I had an eating disorder, and I had a lot of self-esteem issues. There are barriers that you can break through. It's a training of your mind. It's not a mystery. There are a lot of mysterious phenomenon when it comes to the human consciousness. There's a lot of things that are so intricate we probably can't explain. But that doesn't mean that you need to be confused or you need to fight with yourself. This conflict that we sometimes have, like if you're your biggest bully, or if you're afraid of speaking in public because you're worried about what other people will think of you, or you're insecure, or, in my mind, I was like, I'm ugly. Whatever's holding you back. The beliefs that you hold underneath those observations are the foundations of how you live your life. This could be pictures in your mind. This could be feelings in your body. This could be voices that you hear in your head. It could be any of these different modalities of experience that we have. So when you train your brain, I think of this like in the fitness industry. I've been in the fitness industry since I was like 16. And the more time you have training, the stronger you get, obviously. In the self-development world, especially with high achievers, with those people that just do more so that they can be more. The thing is, with the high achieving, you have a way of achieving so much that from the outside, people are like, you're fine. But really, your struggle is that you need to do more to be more. The way that you think you need to achieve more things so that you can finally reach this worthiness, this enoughness. And then what? That's the thing with enough. Like if you don't think you're good enough, strong enough, fast enough, pretty enough, smart enough, whatever it is, if you're trying to reach a place of enoughness, you tend to always bring the bar even higher. Like the closer that you get to that space of enoughness, you're like, well, I need this other level to be enough. The paradox about it is that if you're searching for enough, you'll never find it. If you're trying to be enough, you'll never find it. You'll never get there. Why? Because there's no getting to enough. You come from it. You come from being enough. And what I appreciate about that reframe is that it teaches you to lock in your foundation of self-worth and self-confidence. Yeah, maybe you don't have $1 million. Yeah, maybe you don't have $100,000 in the bank and you're not wealthy enough or abundant enough. But it doesn't mean you don't have that space of enoughness within you. So how do you create the world without the lack? This is what NLP helps with. I can't get enough of this thing called NLP, and I'm so intrigued by it, and I will continue to study it, and I will continue to go deeper into the learnings of it. And I've been studying it for about a decade now, and I've been teaching it for about 5 years. Because it's the space in between, I say, the 3D and the 5D, because it has a lot of grounded, logical information, a lot of neuroplasticity training, neuroscience, the way the brain works. But then it also has this place of magic. How fast can you make a change? Like that. There's this book, the DSM-5. It's like the book of diagnostics, and it's a version 5 because we keep getting more problems and we keep getting more diagnostics and diagnoses placed upon us. But what is so interesting is that book says in order to get rid of a phobia, like a big fear, a big irrational fear, it takes 15 years. 15 years to get rid of a phobia. NLP goes through this different route, and they say, oh, well, give me 15 minutes. Because 15 years, you're going to hold on to a story for 15, like say it's a fear of spiders. You're going to hold on to a fear of spiders for 15 years, or fear of snakes, or fear of heights, a fear of elevators. You know, people have these different fears. But it's the story that keeps it going. It's the story that we place upon ourselves that perpetuates our fears, our insecurities, our lack of belief in ourselves. It's the stories that have added this heavy load of unempowerment to us. We want to focus on the structure. We want to focus on when you think of that fear, when you think about that identity statement or that belief in yourself, what comes up? The structure of your nervous system is actually where you need to make the change, not in the story. The story will change over time, but we hold on to our stories forever because who are we without our stories? Who are we without our pain? You get to repattern that story, write new chapters, write a sequel to your book. And you do that by going into the mind and the structure of how you're relaying the information. Like if somebody doesn't have a lot of confidence, right? And they say, I want to have more confidence. And you ask them to think of themselves in a situation. Like think of going up to your boss and asking for a raise. You know, if they're insecure, they're not going to have a picture of them being strong and confident going up to their boss and asking for a raise. Because the story that they're telling themselves is one of, I'm not confident, I'm not strong enough to do this, or whatever it is. So when you go into your mind and you just create new pictures, and I know it sounds simple, doesn't mean it's easy, but it can be simple. You picture yourself in that compelling future. You picture yourself walking up to your boss with confidence, doing that presentation with confidence. And what would you look like in that scenario? And the more you set up your neural patterns and neural wiring to have those stronger characteristics of confidence, belief in yourself, self-worthiness, the more it happens over time. Neurons that fire together, wire together. I know this because I've experienced it. I know this because I used to write notebooks when I was younger about myself, and they were not the nicest words at all. They were not good words for myself. And I would just write in notebooks about my unworthiness or ugliness or insecurities, whatever it was. And I believed it at that time when I was writing it. And now I've seen over time how going into your inner mind and seeing the way that you're defining your subjective reality can give you words right in front of you. It is a reflection of who you are and how you see the world. So what would it be like to switch those up? And when you learn the structure of positive thinking, I think obviously that's where positive thinking can be a little toxic, because you don't want to pretend everything's okay when the house is on fire. And it's not toxic positivity. What we're doing is bringing ourselves words of affirmations, never-ending, limitless possibilities, potentials. Then we're retraining our words. We're retraining the pattern of our thoughts. I think throughout the years that's how I changed mostly, was just figuring out the words that I was saying out loud to myself, and deeply believing it, because I think who we are and who we portray ourselves to be is not necessarily the same as who we are on the inside. Like, who are you when no one else is alone, or no one else is watching? Who are you when no one else is watching? What do you do? How do you think of yourself? Because that's who you are. When you're around other people, sometimes we add this mask. We add this pretend person. We add this vision of who we think other people want us to be. So to release those masks and be your most authentic self, is a skill. Because if the world has placed identities upon us, if you have been projected onto certain personality traits, attitudes, characteristics of who other people think you are, and then you're living up to those standards, and then you're feeling burnt out, incongruent, tired, unhappy. Why? Because you're now living up to the standards of other people. So when you release all of those projections and you release those belief systems that aren't you, what's left? And if you've been living a life of being who other people want you to be, there's some repatterning. You're creating a mold. Like Michelangelo, he has the statue of David, right? And I was watching this documentary one time, and it had the ice sculptors, and you know the guys who take the chainsaw and sculpt into a log of wood and make it into a bear. And they were asking these artists, and they said, how do you know what to sculpt? Like, how do you know that the bear is underneath just that log of wood? How do you know that the dolphin is underneath that ice sculpture? How do you know where to cut off? And they said it's not so much about where to cut off. It's about seeing the bear underneath, seeing the dolphin underneath, and then chipping away at everything that's not it. And I thought that was really cool because I like how that's stated. It means that we can release everything that's not us. How do you know when something's not you? How do you know when something is a belief of someone else or a belief of society that you're still running? Awareness. Asking yourself in those moments, am I living up to my expectations, or am I living a story that other people are placing upon me? And when we are distracted by our external environment, when we're distracted by work, or we're distracted by watching TV or social media or whatever it is, if we're not giving ourselves the time to sit down within that awareness, then we lose it. We lose the opportunity to do so. So this is why, there's meditation retreats, there's personal development classes, there's all of these opportunities in this day and age to sit down and be with yourself so you can think about what you want and what you want to bring to the world. And then we move from a place of our experience and our subjective reality to now translating that to the world, communicating to the world. The other huge part of NLP is the linguistics, the language. Because it's not a different word, it's a different world. And when you change the sentence that you're saying to yourself, you change the world that you live in. What I think is so fascinating about language is that it's arbitrary, meaning there's no super set definition. Even the Webster's dictionary is still a biased representation of people's versions of definitions of words. What an incredible thing that we experience when we go through this whole situation, and then we now need to integrate it into our understanding and then make sense of it in our own experience, then output it into words. But this is why words aren't the same as someone's experience. The map is not the territory. The words people choose to use to describe an experience is not the same as the experience that they have going on, that they lived. It is a refined version and funneled version of that experience. So we give people space to be the complex humans that they are. And when somebody says, I am depressed, those are 3 words. But 3 words to describe what could be years or decades of experience that have brought the sum total of their emotions to now be identified as this word depression. And when you have chronic depression, you have chronic anxiety, these underlying issues that are there every single day of your life, I believe it's up to you. If there's an issue, issue. If there's an issue, issue. And the more that you can take that responsibility, the more that you can hold on to that change that you want, the more that you can make it happen. So yes, you do need to decide to change. Yes, you do need to decide that it's time to get up and get moving. Find people that can help you, find a community, reach out to those people. So anyways, as we communicate now to other people, we're creating this back and forth feedback system of using our words, defining our words, making sense of our reality, and then sending it out. And then there's a whole other person that's on the other side, making sense of their reality, making sense of their world, and then talking through it too. So you can see why miscommunication happens. You can see why people have arguments or are not on the same page, because we're taking words to describe entirely different experiences. NLP is one of the best communication models ever, because it shows you that people, once you understand that people have different realities, shocker, people see the world completely differently than you, then you can start to have that as the foundation, rather than being someone, if in the past, if you've been someone that's my way or the highway, if you've been someone that's very stubborn, it's very important that you acknowledge the other person has a completely different belief system. Doesn't mean you need to be friends with everyone, doesn't mean you need to get along with everyone. You can agree to disagree. But if you are in a relationship with someone, or you are in a family and you have these people in your life that you don't necessarily get along with all the time, the communication model of NLP is going to help you. It's going to help you move through conflicts easier. It's going to help you grow your empathy so that you can be a leader of language. You can hold your boundaries. You're going to get better at holding your boundaries. But it'll also make you more inspired by humanity and the differences that we have with all of us. If you're somebody that is used to not using your voice and playing small, this is your opportunity to figure out how to use your voice, because NLP is stuff that you've been doing your entire life. Like, you've always been thinking about your life. You've always been talking to other people. But now NLP takes the concepts and puts it into words and says, if you are saying that you have chronic depression, you are using a adjective presupposition that has a certain emotion attached to it. And when you use words like chronic to explain your situation, there's a definition that comes with that. That is your definition. So for some people, having a chronic issue hurts them more than anything, because they now walk around with victim mentality. I think I want to let go of the need to attach good or bad to any word, especially with like the example of chronic. So if I were to come up here and be a personal development coach and say, if you say that your issue is chronic all the time, you are in victim mentality always, and you are not helping yourself, stop telling yourself that you have chronic issues and grow up and get better. But I don't think it's like that, because I think the word doesn't matter. The world you live in matters. And for me personally, like, I had thyroid cancer when I was 18. I didn't want to have a chronic issue. I didn't want to have a chronic illness. And so I lived the first half of my 20s as if I didn't, and everything was fine. And I was working out all the time. And then after a while, I started to experience a lot of bad symptoms within my body. I couldn't go to sleep. And I was also so lethargic. I had to be in bed for like 14 hours. I basically just had a crumble of my metabolic system. Why? Because I was pretending that everything was fine. And so when I attached the word chronic to my situation, I realized, oh, I do have a chronic problem. I do have a chronic disorder in my body, because I have glands that were taken out of me. It gave me permission to rest. It gave me permission to release the identifications of the need to be the strongest, fastest girl in the room. I finally could accept my body the way it was, and it gave me this whole new level up in life in a different way. I learned how to slow down. I learned how to give myself grace and peace and focus on my health more than anything else, because that's what matters. Your health is your wealth. But it was the story that I was attaching to it, and that was the problem. So see how this all is interwebbed with how you think about the world? How you think about the world, how you talk about yourself, how you talk about the world, how you talk to other people, how you listen to other people. This is the study of NLP. And in the simplest way that we can, we break down these different patterns and behaviors and techniques into a series of 12 weeks. And we go over different subjects like presuppositions, language, anchors, very visual, kinesthetic anchors, go into timeline therapy, the way that we see our memories, the way that we envision our future. And you get to experience the Neuro Linguistic Programming, which is so much better than reading a book, right? Like, so much better than reading a book, because if you read a book, a lot of people do this, they become personal development junkies, they read all the books, they listen to all the books, they go to all the seminars, but if you don't actually do anything, if you don't actually implement these techniques and these concepts, nothing changes if nothing changes. So when you dive into like an NLP practitioner training, you really get into it and you experience it. You experience every single technique, both as a practitioner leading someone through it and a client experiencing it. And this is when the changes happen. How fast can you make a change? Like that. Because you're taking time to do change work. You're taking time because you're worth it, because you've wanted to do something like this for a long time, because it is time to take this next investment in yourself and this next focus of your own growth. And when you learn things like NLP, it only changes everything. Obviously, that's the motto. I feel grateful to be in this position, to be in the position of, I guess, leading the experience. But for me, I don't think it's leading. It's like I'm a vessel. I'm a vessel of the knowledge that is in the ethers. And then somehow I take that knowledge in the ethers and I put it through my mouth and I do lectures upon it and I lead exercises. But the best thing about this is that within the NLP experience, I call it guru mindset. Like, the last thing I want is a guru mindset or people to think that I have this knowledge and that I'm the keeper of the wisdom. I'm not. I'm just a vessel of this thing that I found that is super cool called NLP, that breaks down the methods of the mind and the mechanics of thinking in a way that can support your best well-being, in a way that can support your highest, most empowered self. This is what we want. And the community is so great too. It's full of a bunch of unique individuals, but everyone wanted to change, whether it was a change to help other people, to become a coach, to become more acknowledged in whatever industry they're in, to become a stronger, faster, more capable version of themselves, whatever it is. I think that NLP can be one of the best things for anyone. Really, I've had students that were 18 all the way up to 70. Well, technically I had a 2-year-old in my class too, but the really conscious present ones were from 18 to 70. It's never too late, never too old, never too young. It is always right on time. When you come across these opportunities for your growth and development, you are always on time. There is no projected storyline for everyone to follow. There is no timeline that is absolutely necessary for you to get these big events done. There's no timeline. You are always on perfect timing for your life. Because if you don't have that belief, then you're just in resistance. Then, I should have done this. I should be here by now. I should be more successful by now. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Stop shoulding on yourself. And meet yourself where you're at. When you meet yourself in that divine union, that center of, I acknowledge where I'm at and where I'm at is okay. That's when things are just going to get better. And that's when you'll actually stop creating that stagnation and create even more momentum in your life. Because when you meet yourself where you're at, then you say, what's my next smallest step? This is my favorite question. What is my next smallest step? If you are in places of overwhelm, if you can't see the big picture, you're just seeing everything all at once and it's so much, it's too much, you don't know what to do next, you chunk it down and you ask yourself, what is my next smallest step? Then you just do that step. And then you ask yourself again, what is my next smallest step? Okay, I feel like I've been all over the place with this podcast, but I think it's okay. I'm actually excited about this. I'm actually going to clip some of these for social media too. So however this podcast comes out is going to be good. And I think the last thing I want to touch on is this idea of becoming who you needed. Because when you're going into your growth, when you're going into your self-development, when you're really trying to create the human that you want to be and that you are, facing your past, I think it's hard. Maybe it's just hard for me. I think there's a grieving that I'm experiencing about my past that is heavier in my 30s than it was in my 20s, because there's some deeper truths that I've started to recognize of, my past childhood and upbringing that I didn't want to see in my 20s, and now I'm in my 30s and I'm like, dang. But that's how you can become the person that you needed. That's how you become the part of yourself that is reparenting yourself. The part of yourself, the little boy, the little girl that's inside of you that didn't get the love or attention that you need. You actually need to give that to yourself. That's going to create the more healing that will bring you to release a lot of the negative emotions, the shame, the guilt, the anger, the hurt, the frustration. One of the areas in NLP that we focus on a lot is this idea of the timeline, and this idea of when you look at your life, when you have the big timeline of your life and you have the past, the present, and the future. And let's say in your mind, you close your eyes and you go above your timeline and you go above the past and you look down upon one of those memories. What do you see? And the thing that's so interesting to me about memories is you might not remember the memory exactly. Like, how are you perceiving your memories? You're perceiving them as who you are now. You're perceiving them through the framework of who you are now. So you might look back on different experiences in a very different way at different points in your life because you're seeing the memory as who you are now. There's one quote in NLP, the creator of NLP, Richard Bandler, he says, "It's never too late to have a happy childhood." What I like about that is that personally, with the grief that I'm kind of looking back on with my childhood, there are pockets and there are areas where you can focus on the good, obviously. This is the positive thinking part, that it's never too late to have a happy childhood. It's also important to acknowledge where your parents didn't meet up to the standards that you would now create for your own family. It's also important to remember that there were things that you didn't learn that you know now that you wish you could have learned then. But when we reprogram ourselves and we look back on those old memories, if we look back on it through a lens of growth, through a lens of, oh, I had to go through that to become the person. You had to go through that hard, negative experience because you would have never been the person that you are now without it. I think that's like one of the only ways to get through tough shit, is to just realize that the person you're becoming will utilize it. If you choose to utilize the bad experience, if you choose to let it destroy you, turn you into a victim, or just completely ruin your life, that's a choice. The other choice is to utilize the situations that you've been through and then make sense of it to build you up, to build you into a more resilient person. Even if it's hard, I know sometimes it's hard. It's hard a lot of times when you go through tough stuff. But think big picture. Think big picture in the whole reference of your entire life. Do you want to feel more good feelings or bad feelings? And if there's a way to mitigate the amount of bad feelings by empowering yourself to feel more good feelings, I'm just saying. That's an opportunity. That's an option. So that's when you're becoming who you needed. You're filling in the gaps of the personality traits that you didn't receive enough affirmation from. You're filling in the love that maybe you didn't experience before that you needed. When you grow that love within yourself, you can meet yourself where you're at and fill in those gaps. And once you start filling in a gap here, a gap there, you do a little, you look at yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself that you love yourself. When you do something challenging that you never thought that you could do, when you jump into a space of the unknown, you fill in the gaps of the unfulfillment that you used to have in order to bring your space in your mind into a space of more fulfillment. That's the goal. And I think that's what I'm doing out here in Phoenix, is to find more fulfillment and just keep reaching those new levels of life. I wanted to move and grow and, I don't know, switch things up. And I'm excited about this podcast and filming it, so we'll see how this goes. I think I'm going to put it on YouTube. I think I'm going to put it on clips on social media, but I thank you for being here. Thanks for watching today. If you're watching, if you're listening, I appreciate you too. I am going to go home, cook myself a dinner, and enjoy the desert weather that's out here right now. So, thank you for being you. I'm so glad you are, and I'll see you soon.